Hey everybody, welcome back to the EV80quette podcast. I'm Adam with Adam's Everything EV, and today we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, like, is Doug DeMuro still a car reviewer? We'll address that, as well as some Fisker news, industry updates, the market report. You know the drill. Make sure to watch till the end so you don't miss anything. But let's get right into it. First, back to Doug. The question in the title may seem completely irrelevant, but I offer this statement.
Are we going to make it and never have to electrify? Me and you, not him.
Well, I mean, I'm sticking with my car.
You get my point, though. Volvo's plan was to fully electrify by 2030. I'll be 42. If that doesn't happen, let's say they push it 10 years. I'm going to slip through this, aren't I? I'm going to be able to never have to go electric.
About 3 minutes later, he says that he does want an EV as long as Mercedes offers an AMG wagon, which
I already want to have an electric car, Philippe, but why would they make an electric E-Class wagon?
we know it never will. But maybe I should start taking notes from the Doug DeMuro playbook and try being wrong more often, like this one.
There is no way they're selling Prologues. There's no way.
I now understand how they sold 10,000. They actually leased 10,000.
Yes.
And because it's the cheapest Honda you can lease.
Which we'll address momentarily. But let's talk about that leasing. In a recent podcast I did with Brian, which I will definitely link below and is totally worth a watch, I talked to him about whether the $7,500 credit income cap has affected EV sales. And after admitting that because of the $7,500 tax credit rule change, he no longer looks at new EVs to purchase, he's going to look at the used market, he also agrees that leasing has probably increased because of it. The loophole I'm referring to is the fact that you don't need any income requirements to get a lease and still receive a $7,500 tax credit. What are your thoughts on leasing? Let me know down below. And definitely check out the EVOG podcast after this one, link in the description. So to insinuate that the only way that EVs are being sold is through a lease is to completely misunderstand the tax credit.
It's the cheapest Honda you can lease.
And its current implications in the market. And as far as Prologue sales, well, Doug was really wrong about they can't be selling Prologues. In August, 5,401 Prologues were sold, which beat the Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Ioniq 5, the F-150 Lightning, the EV9, the EV6, the E-Transit van, and the Ioniq 6. And if you want to know some of the reasons why, check out my video about it. Speaking of that Prologue video, it addresses almost everything there is to know about the Honda Prologue, at least up to now, and there are a few things I left out which people asked me questions about. Let's address those now. Do you know how to turn off the interior lighting? I can't seem to figure it out. There's a good reason for that. On page 116 of the owner's manual, under courtesy lamps, the courtesy lamps come on when any door is opened, unlock on the remote key is pressed, or when the vehicle is turned off. There's no way to stop that. I looked through the manual, I looked through the menus, there's all kinds of other lighting options, but unfortunately, when you open the door, the lights are going to come on. A lot of good stuff in this comment, but I did not mention that the Prologue does have regular vehicle door handles, which is kind of nice. So for short commute, the level 2 charger from Honda should be fine, or would the level 1 be the best option? The Honda charger has a level 1 and level 2 option, so you can do any one you want, but the slower one's obviously going to be the level 1. And the level 2 could likely require an installation from an electrician. I hope that helps. The Google built-in makes it easy to recommend the Honda Prologue for the first-time EV driver. Google built-in shows your arrival state of charge and adds charging stops, which are optimized to be at faster stations along the route. And it's proven in my experience to be simple and conservative. Again, what the first-time EV owner needs. I agree 100% with this. Next, it's on to the ever-expanding, totally ridiculous Fisker debacle. Let's talk Fisker. I had a question about any potential impact an arbitration decision against Chase would have regarding being a creditor in the bankruptcy case. Quote, "We do not expect any activity in the bankruptcy to affect owners' rights in this arbitration against Chase." So extremely good news on that front. Don't be afraid to file a proof of claim and still go through with the bankruptcy, even if you do intend to go after Chase through Hagens-Berman. That link is on screen. Additionally, here's another statement on fees from the Hagens-Berman website. The last page of the retainer agreement refers to litigation expenses rather than Hagens-Berman's fee. These expenses relate to things such as expert witnesses and other items necessary to prevail in an arbitration hearing. It is difficult to estimate these amounts before we know what the defenses will be, but the larger number of clients that are retaining us will certainly lower the dollar amount of expenses per client. Our retainer agreement includes this to safeguard our clients so that there are no surprises should this arise. In more Fisker news, 2.2 has been rolling out, but remember that's going to be a small group and that rollout could take a very long time as cars are still being bricked by updates. There's a new American Lease sale document that changes the requirement for Fisker to prepare cars with the recall, as American Lease now has a way that they can perform the recall themselves. Hopefully, that's good news for regular customers. That particular item is still up for approval, but approved currently is the disclaimer language and the opt-out language in the newest term sheet addressing the bankruptcy settlement. That hearing was September 9th. And if you have any questions about opting out or the disclosure statement, please feel free to ask below. I'm going to do a complete video on it very soon. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Denied, however, unfortunately, was the motion to unseal some of this communication between Gita Fisker and Heights Capital or whatever else was in that sealed evidence from document 300. That was eventually thrown out in the case, but the bad news is additional legal action is going to have to be taken before anybody knows exactly what was in those documents, as that motion was denied today, September 9th. I've got Fisker rumors coming up at the end of the video. Make sure you don't miss those. But moving on, definitely not a rumor, is the new trim of the Ioniq 5 available for 2025, the XRT, a more off-road version of Hyundai's award-winning EV. Complete with a NACS port, wireless CarPlay, a track version in the Ioniq 5N, and the new XRT trim, the Ioniq 5 is making vehicles like the Toyota GR Series, the Outback, and the WRX more irrelevant by the minute, because Korea can see the future and it looks like Japan currently is stuck in the past. Also, the Ioniq 5 becomes eligible for more incentives in 2025 as it will be moved from Korea to Georgia as far as manufacturing for the U.S. market. Speaking of the U.S. market, it's market report time. You can still find a $15,000 off Blazer EV. The Equinox is now available everywhere. In fact, I saw one over the weekend at an EV Cars and Coffee where there was a unique lineup of EVs. Here's a sample. There were others, including an Ioniq 5N. Speaking of Hyundai, the Ioniq 6 can be found for $10,000 off MSRP pretty easily. The Model Y and Model 3 are still 1.99% APR, which is a great deal. In fact, that's why I've got this one right here. Make sure you subscribe. I've got a big in-depth look at the 2024 Model 3 refresh coming soon, and the Prologue is available for cheap lease depending on your area. Check your local dealership. As for the used market, we have to talk about the Arya, the Solterra, and the BZ4X, which can all be found for insanely affordable prices right now with very low mileage. And with that, let's talk about the Arya very quickly. A customer posted some of the problems they've had since they got the vehicle. The navigation resets itself. There's a thunk in the frame. This is not an Arya problem. There is no Apple Maps EV routing. Wireless CarPlay is inconsistent. Drive modes, positions reset themselves. The app doesn't work. Features are being removed. ProPilot 2.0 disengages regularly, and they do not recommend buying one in the current state that it is. If you have a Nissan Arya, please share your experience in the comments below. I have driven one, and I don't really share a lot of these opinions, but love to know your thoughts. There's a new solution as far as urban charging. It's called the Beam Spot. It looks extremely promising, but however, no matter how much stuff I read on it, I couldn't find a price, which probably means it's closer to a moonshot than a reality at this point. And with that, let's look into your comments. And let's start with our top story. Did anyone receive their level 2 50% off wall box Fisker branded charger? And has Fisker stolen your money? I did recommend in a previous video to make sure you used a credit card, as under Federal Regulation E, you can always file a claim against the seller and get your money back. And unless they can prove they sent you the item, that's all she wrote. Let's hope that's not something you have to resort to. I will say that when I ordered my Fisker jacket, they did not mail it until the day that I sent them the $5,000 for the car. At that point, they mailed it, which was at least 30 days from when I ordered it. Get ready to file that claim. I knew the risks of buying this car. I'm not going to attempt to hold a bank accountable. How is this Chase's fault? Just give me the ability to service this vehicle, and I'll be satisfied. I don't see you being satisfied. If that's the case, attempts will be made and you'll get service, but the amount of financial commitment might have you questioning this choice down the road. The court ruled Fisker must stay in Chapter 11 to help support the few thousand Ocean owners out there. How does that work? How can you force a company that is financially broke and not making money to carry on working? Why this special rule has never been applied to any other manufacturer that has gone broke? Where's all the money coming from? This is a Chapter 11 liquidation. Heights is agreed to settle. Fisker no longer has control. CVI has decided it's better for them to be in control for the American lease sale, as well as recalls and updates. If Chapter 7 starts, all the lights go out and the sale doesn't finish, which means the creditors don't get their money. Great question. The braking stuff is pretty minor. I could probably stop right there. But there's more. I have 2 broken vents, phantom passenger lights, ADAS fan is on. I had to pull the T-box fuse to reset the map. Overall, it has been a similar experience to several other new model cars I bought. Please let me know in the comments what other new cars you bought that had broken vents. A fan that never turned off, you had to pull a fuse, and the rear lights came on while you were driving at night. By the way, I fixed that problem on my Ocean before I got rid of it with my final service appointment by asking the technician to unplug all of them. There are 2 lights on each side. All of mine were unplugged, so whoever got my Ocean Sport won't be having that problem, at least. I don't understand why you want to make excuses for this car, but I do appreciate your honesty about all of its failures, so thanks for that. This commenter mentions the crapshoot of a charging situation with the Prologue. This is just how it is. The Polestar 2 is going to be really similar here. The Bolts, the Konas, the Neros, the ID4 for that matter, the Arya, the BZ4X. Other than the EGMP, this is what you deal with when you have CCS. We need Apple CarPlay. By the way, this has been completely thrown out by the FOA. They are no longer going to try to get Apple CarPlay, and in fact, very soon, there won't be any navigation for anyone, and that frozen screen you get when you've got to reset your T-box may just be your reality going forward forever. What is the likelihood of owners actually getting anything? Since owners will be at the bottom, does filling out a form mean we get a check for $3.57 in 2 years? I wrote $3.57 as a pretty bullish case because there isn't a lot of money. $40 million is a best case scenario for this American lease sale, assuming everything goes exactly perfectly to plan, which we know it won't. Also, that's before legal and administrative. And yes, there are some major unsecured creditors. So the likelihood of us getting a lot of money is low, but the reason you file a claim is so you can have voting power. I'll cover that in an upcoming video. Well, I just bought this headache car and am determined to keep all the features, plus to get all our updates, service, parts, and repairs.
What's she gonna be, a shoe salesman at a centipede farm?
I absolutely love this comment. Welcome to the nightmare, by the way.
Hi there. Hello.
Your willpower and determination may yield you some positive results, but they will be at the end of a very long, tiresome, perilous, tedious journey. And this keeping all the features like the navigation that disappears or all our updates, are you going to become a programmer? I think service, parts, and repairs, if expense isn't considered, will be possible. But those others, please let me know how you get them when you do. Finally, in the comments section, let's talk about road tripping. In my most recent video on the Prologue, I went over kind of everything there is to know about charging the Prologue, which if you want to know anything about how your EV charges, it's an extremely valuable presentation. This proves that for road tripping, you need a Tesla, but I agree with people that say Teslas have an appearance problem. Does that mean EVs in general that look normal are simply not good road trip vehicles? The question here is, how much are you willing to pay for convenience? I answered an EV curious observer in this way at our recent EV car meetup. A 2-liter at a convenience store is $5. It's $1.49 at the grocery store. Few minutes of planning, and an EV becomes the $1.49 option. If you don't plan, you continue to pay $5. Here's another comment. A big reason for not switching to EV is convenience. Things like level 3 charging networks, level 2 charging are oftentimes convenience features, and you shouldn't be so dismissive about it. There's genuine merit in not having to plan on how to use your ICE or hybrid car. As long as there's a road that leads to where you want to go, it can get you there. There will be gas stations along the way, and it is not something you have to route around. As you say, as long as you put planning and forethought into your trips and commute, an EV can do it, but not everyone wants to do that. I agree with this. If the only reason you own a vehicle is to get from A to B the absolute most conveniently, regardless of cost, then absolutely yes, get a gas car. But if any other factor comes into play, like time or money, we all know time is money. So if you're willing to sacrifice 15 to 30 minutes here and there while you eat, use the restroom, check your phone, walk your dog, or just take a break in general, then that sacrifice becomes 50 to 200% less cost for fuel, depending on where you live and how you charge. And like I say in this reply, if you're willing to pay the price, you'll never have to plan or think. Speaking of road trips, I'll prove that CCS cars aren't impossible to road trip in an upcoming video when I go check out the difference between the original launch edition Rivian R1T and the new models. Stay tuned, that video is definitely coming soon. And finally, I promised some Fisker rumors at the end of this video. Remember, these are just rumors, and please let me know how you feel about them down in the comments below. The Cloud is rumored to have cost Fisker around $1 million a month when they were operating it. Assuming every Fisker Owners Association member decides to take that, and the Cloud can be had for the same amount of money through the FOA, that's $333 a month or $300 a month or something. And that's not including navigation or T-Mobile, just the Cloud, $1 million a month. And what happens if you decide not to run 4G in your Ocean? Well, there's no navigation, obviously no streaming or Hollywood mode, and there's also a rumor that California mode works through the T-Box. But this is just a rumor, and if I'm wrong, please let me know down in the comments below. If you have an EV that I haven't covered on the channel, I would love to review your EV. If you're willing to, definitely reach out at adamsevreviews@yahoo.com. That's it for this one. Join Patreon or become a YouTube member for early access to videos. Subscribe for more, and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey! Smash the like button!
Thank you.
Shoe salesman at a centipede farm.